for Max, our musical entertainment. Good job, Max. Yes. Love it. Sixth period. Good afternoon. How are you doing? Oh, I like this energy. Great. Great. Okay. We love Writers Week. I asked this question fifth hour too. Is this anybody's first time ever attending Writers Week? Anybody? Anybody? Okay, great, welcome. And then we've got lots of returners, so you know what this is all about. How great that you get to start your week with some student presenters. We have 8 amazing poets and writers and creators behind us, and I'm really excited for you to hear what they have to say. Before that, we have some thank yous. First of all, thank you to the boosters and our families and the community members that help us make this happen every single year. Thank you to my amazing colleagues in the English department and your awesome English teachers. Wave to them, say thank you for bringing you down here today. Yay! Thank you to our tech crew for all of your help with putting this on. We love tech crew. Yes. And thank you to all of you for being amazing audience members. You're putting your devices away, you're taking notes if your teacher gave you a note sheet, and you are demonstrating full respect like you have already done so the entire time. Yay. All right, I have the distinct privilege of introducing our first reader for today, and that is Annalise.
This was a piece written for my AP Lang class when we were reading The Anthropocene by John Green. 21.3 grams. What is a soul? The answer to that will differ depending on who you ask. If Plato were still alive, he would explain it as an immaterial amalgamation of a person's true self. If you asked Ibn Sina, a philosopher from the Islamic Golden Age, he would argue that the soul and spirit were 2 distinct forms of a person's nature. If you met a Buddhist monk, he would share with you his faith's belief of anatta, a doctrine on no self. But if you had asked 8-year-old me, she would have said a ghost. That was the extent of my understanding back then. The concept of a soul was a bit of a loaded one for a socially inept elementary schooler. It is probably due, in part, to my social anxieties that I value my space on the internet more than most people would consider healthy. I am, admittedly, and according to my friends, a bit of a screenager. I am okay with this title. Looking at me looking at my phone for hours on end, you would probably assume the same. What you wouldn't know is I am likely to be doing research for one of my many unnecessarily complicated creative projects, or exploring rabbit holes on everything from exposés of the funeral industry to forums about tattoos and the long-extinct Scythian culture. If these ventures fail me in hiding from dreaded boredom, I turn to my beloved YouTube. There, I can find video essays on anything and everything, paleontology deep dives, storm chaser vlogs, and a longtime favorite, video game lore breakdowns. It was during one of these last-ditch efforts to evade the distress boredom causes me, which is my nemesis, second only to unexplained joint pains, that I was introduced to a game titled Death Stranding. Upon clicking the hour-and-a-half video, I was not expecting to become charmed by a world designed by the infamously sardonic Hideo Kojima. And yet here we are. In Death Stranding, I was once more reminded of the concept of a soul, from the horrible phenomenon of void-outs to the cryptic realm of beaches. The theme that is the will of humanity vaulted from my fractured screen and burrowed itself in my skull. In Death Stranding, everybody has a beach. A beach is the realm between the state of dying and being dead. Among the duology's many characters with impressively on-the-nose names, I was introduced to one called Hartman. Hartman has myocardial cordiformia, a fictitious condition that warps the heart from its anatomical shape into that of its stereotypical cartoon form. It is largely due to this medical issue that Hartman has a stronger connection to beaches than the average person. So strong, in fact, that every 21 minutes his heart stops and he is transported to a beach for 3. 21 minutes conscious, 3 minutes dead. A 21-to-3 ratio. Those numbers meant nothing to me until a dot and a unit of measurement was added. This is where I unknowingly relearned about the 21.3 grams experiment. In 1907, a terribly boring time considering the distinct lack of YouTube, a physician named Duncan McDougall would lead his name confidently into the realm of what not to do. His hypothesis, one that would become an infamous example of pseudoscience, was that the soul is a physical thing that holds weight. How much? 21.3 grams, according to a whole lot of nothing. His test consisted of 6 people near death, primarily tuberculosis patients. Out of those 6, not one set of data was consistent or reliable. Only one patient lost 21.3 grams at his time of death, which very easily could have been contributed to the muscles relaxing post-mortem. But of course, McDougall was convinced. He had no evidence, which was more than enough for him. Unbeknownst to me until the time of writing this, I was actually first introduced to this experiment while freshly 15. I was at a point in my life where my social anxiety was trying its very best to let me live normally. We had mild success. It was also during this time that I began listening to podcasts as a pastime. Among my two favorites were the Silt Verses and Welcome to Night Vale. Both have an underlying theme of horror. Early on in my binge of Night Vale, episode 26 ended in a proverb I didn't think twice about at the time. The human soul weighs 21 grams, smells like grilled vegetables, looks like a wrinkled tartan quilt, and sounds like bridge traffic. One thing I do like about the 21.3 grams experiment is its influence on media like Welcome to Night Vale and Death Stranding. The results from McDougall's project have been painfully and repeatedly disproven into textbook oblivion. And yet it has become an inside joke of sorts across video games, visual novels like Gantz, podcasts, and even TV shows like Ted Lasso. The soul doesn't actually weigh 21.3 grams, as its namesake study claims. Nonetheless, this quantity has become synonymous with the soul's mass. I imagine Plato, even Sina, and even the Buddha to be partially offended, if not amused, by this idea. It doesn't make sense, and yet people treat it like an open secret. We know it isn't true, but we are able to take it as a bit of trivia and incorporate it into niche pop culture regardless. That, in and of itself, is both my favorite and most hated part of human behavior. We lie. Even when we know we're lying, we make jokes and art and music and even politics steeped in things that don't carry even an ounce of truth. We are stupid that way. Charmingly, infuriatingly, time-defyingly stupid. I give the 21.3 grams experiment 2 1/3 stars. Next up is Amani.
Hi, I'm Amani. This is a piece I wrote for Writers Week, but I think that me and a lot of my friends here can relate to it. So shout out to Mamula's class and also a bunch of my friends that are here. The scent of different perfumes filled the air in this small hotel room as I looked around at my 5 best friends. We were all different, yet somehow the same. Our loose waves, high-pitched laughs, and shared humor showed how easily we fit together. But as we got ready, I realized that what connected us most was deeper than what we looked like or how we acted. It was how the world tried to decide who we were before we even spoke. In my opinion, when people think of Indian girls, one of 2 things comes to mind. Either a girl with thick, brushed-out black hair tied into a ponytail with glasses pushed up her nose, or Devi Vishwakumar, the main character in Never Have I Ever. Growing up, I based who I thought I should be on my mom's story. She was perfect to me. I assumed that meant she had straight A's and silky smooth hair. Later on, I realized that my mom sometimes struggled in school and usually wore her hair up in a bushy ponytail too. Without even realizing it, she fit the very first stereotype I thought was weird. However, she is living proof that there is nothing wrong with it. About a year ago, I watched Never Have I Ever and noticed that Devi would also sometimes tie her hair up in a bushy ponytail. Other times, she wore outfits that I'm pretty sure would give my mom a heart attack. That was when it hit me. Both of these figures in my life tried to balance the stereotypes while never fully fitting either. When they fit one, they wanted to be the other. However, when trying to be the other, they didn't like that one either. Watching them made me feel like I was expected to pick one quickly and stick to it forever if I wanted a smooth life. On one hand, there was the quiet, smart girl stereotype, the one teachers smiled at while handing back tests and aunties bragged about at family gatherings. On the other hand, there was Devi, loud, messy, pretty emotional, and constantly making choices that ended up in chaos 5 minutes later. At school, most people assumed I was the first one before I could even open my mouth. I could feel it the minute attendance was called. The teacher would pause, squint at the paper, and carefully sound out each syllable. Ma-ni. Amina, did I get that right? My name isn't even that hard, I would think, nodding anyways. As soon as people heard it, expectations followed. Suddenly, I was supposed to be good at math and responsible. Whenever I did something normal, like forget my homework or talk too much, it felt like I was breaking an unwritten rule. At home, the expectations were fairly different, but just as demanding. I was raised on stories of sacrifice and success. If my parents could leave their country for a new one, the least I should do is make them proud. Every adult conversation circled back to grades, extracurriculars, and the future. You couldn't go to one potluck without the question, so is it going to be doctor or lawyer? There was always a comparison to someone else's daughter who was more smart, more focused, better dressed. Meanwhile, I was worried about the next Sweet 16 I would be practicing dances for. I didn't feel like the genius everyone described in those types. In those times, I felt like Davy, just without a Netflix soundtrack playing in the background and the iconic TV-14 rating. When I watched Never Have I Ever for the first time, I laughed really hard. Not because everything was funny, even though it was, but because it felt illegal to see someone like me on screen acting like that. Davy was Indian, yet she yelled at her mom and attended every party ever. She cared too much and thought too fast. For once, the Indian girl was not there to inspire others. She was there to be human. And to me, that felt rebellious. But even Davy became a stereotype in her own way, the extreme opposite of the first girl. People started asking which one I was more like, the smart one or the crazy one, as if those were the only options. The truth is that I and many other Indian girls my age live somewhere in between. We can care deeply about our futures and still procrastinate until midnight. We can love our culture and still feel overwhelmed by all the expectations tied to it. What people don't realize is that stereotypes don't just affect how others see you, they affect how you see yourself. There were moments I deleted posts of me and my friends at Garba because I worried it looked more like my grandma's page than someone's at school. At moments, I felt guilty for struggling because I was supposed to be naturally good at everything. I love my culture, but I'm tired of being compared to a single image. Back in that hotel room, I understood that neither us or any other Indian girl was just nerdy or Devi Vishwakumar. We were all different, yet somehow the same. We could be smart and dramatic, confident one day and stressed out the next. We could study for A-Push until 12 and then be partying the next night. We do not have to be the stereotypes or the exceptions, and that is better than any other Bollywood movie. Thanks. Up next is Zayn. Thanks.
Hi everyone, I'm Zayn. I apologize in advance for the sorry state of my voice. I'm a little under the weather. And I'd like to shout out Miss Fudala's 6th period AP Lit class, my best friend Malu, who I cannot see past these, oh, I see her, and Bella Voce, who is here. Hashtag join choir, everybody. So I'm a senior, and I recently survived college application season. And to my fellow seniors in the audience, you're probably familiar with the Common App essay or personal statement. And to the underclassmen who are not yet acquainted with the grueling task of using 650 words to encompass who you are as a person, or rather who you'd like to be seen as, I wish you good luck. Today I'm presenting my Common App essay responding to the prompt, describe a moment you challenged a belief or idea and what happened next. I hope you enjoy. The first thing they tell you at school is that to do well, you need to work hard. It's the manifesto preached by every first grade teacher. Put in the effort and you'll get results. If you aren't getting results, then you aren't working hard enough. Hard work meant I had to hold my head down through the grind. Enjoying myself was a sign of laziness, and my unhappiness was proof of my effort. Nothing seemed wrong with the pattern at first. I'd wake up early to go to clubs I hardly cared about, then run to class and cram until my hands cramped and my mind numbed, rush to practice and swim until my entire body hurt. Finally, I'm home, and pray that any of the things I crammed into my brain stayed there because the test is tomorrow and there's a swim meet after that, and I can't even remember why I'm doing all this in the first place. Everyone praised me for being a hard worker. Teachers encouraged me to take on more responsibility. Coaches told me that I'd just stick with it. But I checked my grades, realized they're dropping. Somehow I managed to get slower in the pool, and all my friends are mad at me because I'm always busy and probably also ugly. After a particularly brutal math test, I found myself with an hour and a half to kill before swim practice. I don't know what came over me, but I didn't have it in me to drill any more worksheets. Instead, I bolted to the first available practice room in the music department. My metronome clicked away as I sang through piece after piece, and for once, the dread I normally felt while slogging through life took a backseat. School had made me think that a puritanically rigid routine was the only way to succeed, but after allowing myself to indulge in a brief respite, I couldn't forget. I was afraid to fall out of my set schedule, afraid of working towards brand new goals, lest I start hating yet another thing I used to love. But even if my drawings looked god-awful, and even if my singing veered pitchy, I ultimately didn't mind working to improve, whether drastically or incrementally, despite its metronomic tedium. The work felt fun. If I applied the same mindset to the other aspects of my life, maybe I could achieve more, and not just to achieve more. At school, worksheets were no longer a shackle, but a promise of knowledge, with formulas playfully beckoning my attention. The water in the pool no longer felt like a cold pit of sludge, but a glowing wave to ride and relish. By switching my mindset, I could apply myself in ways I couldn't before. Suddenly, I was waking up early for clubs I actually liked, going to school excited to start our next unit, and looking forward to the lengthy stretches of swim practice. At home, a study break is nothing to be ashamed of. Some days, I might just go get ice cream with friends instead. Committing more time to choir, I promoted music to a first chair position in my life for the first time in years. I was no longer a statistic of burnt out students, but a teenage girl enjoying her high school experience, getting better grades, savoring better times, and cherishing better relationships with my friends. I won't let myself fall back into the cycle of grinding just for the sake of working hard. Now I ask for a shift in the manifesto, and for every first grade teacher to preach that hard work doesn't always equal results. It's a passion for what we're doing that allows us to achieve greatness. Thank you so much, and next up is Hamisha.
Hi everyone, my name's Hamisha, and today I'm going to be presenting 2 poems. Shout out to Mr. Mamula's class. This poem is very special to me because this was written in 7th grade. I was a new student at the time and was struggling to figure things out, friends, grades, and just life in general. And after writing this poem, I found an opportunity to submit it to a competition, and I ended up winning semifinals in that. And here's falling but never giving up. Running, pacing, a leaf is dropping. Falling, descending down on the street. People all around. Where can I even find my peace? Soaking to the ground and feeling weak, but I get up, tired to the peak. I motivate myself to finish, almost reaching the line, but I've been hit. And then falling again, I've experienced pain. This time, I get up without hesitation. My head spins like a rotation. The sky is gloomy. A voice says to get up. I see people all around cheering on me. I feel loose and free and sprint to the finish line. I reached. I've done it. I'm officially free. Loose as a bird in the sky. I'm happy, relieved, and I've accomplished liberty. The second poem I'll be presenting is a poem that I wrote for my grandparents for the last time they visited America. It's called A Final Farewell. As I think of you saying goodbye, I can't help but shed a tear. All the times and struggles we went through can't help but remind me of you. The time you stayed felt like a flower, each month passing by like a falling petal. You flew here, I thought you settled, yet time is up, the withered plant cries. Your hugs and care, gentle as a sunset, the joy on your face, gleaming as the moon. And now as you're going, I can't seem to reach, floating away like the drifting sphere above the beach. Even though you fly miles, shall you conquer the sea, Just know that your smiles will be hanging in my heart and soul with me. So go, my dear, chase your dreams. I love you so much. Thy heart aches to set you free. Little by little, step by step, the warmth between us dies. Yet I'll always be there for you, waiting on the other side. Thank you. Next up is Exania.
Hi everyone, my name is Exania Awad. Firstly, I want to give a huge shout out to Mr. Mamula, 6th period class. And I also want to thank my family, friends, and teachers for being here today. I will be reading a poem I wrote about the 21 Coptic Christian martyrs of Libya, men who were kidnapped and later killed on a shore of a beach for refusing to deny their faith. When the tide turned red. I've carried this story quietly for years, not because it didn't matter, but because it mattered too much. And standing here now, I choose not to look away. If they gave their lives for what they believed in, then I can give my voice. In the February of 2015, 11 years ago on a beach in Libya, 21 Coptic Christian men, ordinary men, sons, fathers, and brothers, were kidnapped by ISIS, a terrorist group. They were beaten, threatened, told they could live if they denied their faith. But when the moment came, not one of them said no to God, not one. Most of the world saw a video, but behind that violence were real people, lives, hearts, children who had to watch their father's last moments through a screen. This is their story, and it is your story too. Because you have faced fear, you have faced loss, you have had to choose who you are. I was 5 the first time I saw the picture. 21 men in orange, hands bound, knees pressed into sand. The wind sharp, the waves restless, the sky pale and refusing to watch. They didn't look like saints, they didn't look like heroes, they looked like us. I imagine one of them lifting his eyes just for a second, not to the knife, not to the sand, but upward. And he whispers the same prayer we all whisper in our quietest, most frightened moments, Lord, remember me. Even if you do not pray, you have begged to be seen, to be held, to be saved. You know that feeling. They knew what was coming. Death walked toward them in human skin, and still they did not look away. Not one ran, not one bargained, not one denied love. I imagine the wind stinging their eyes, the sand cold under their knees, the tide brushing against their ankles. And in that moment, the seconds stretching endless like a pause before a storm breaks. The silence, the trembling, the raw, impossible courage that makes the world hold its breath. I think about their mothers, the hands that held them, the prayers whispered over their sleep, the love that never wavered. Even if you do not share their faith, you know that ache. You know what it is to love someone so completely that your chest aches when they suffer. Yet when they found out about their son's death, their rejoicing drowned the sound of their cries, knowing their names are written in heaven. And what I never expected, the day I learned their names, I saw myself. Not in their bravery, I'm not that brave, but I saw myself in the moment right before. In the fear, in the trembling, in the part of me that wants to live. And it hits me. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is choosing what matters despite it. The tide rises, the waves wait. 21 men lift their eyes to heaven, not because they want to die, but because they know who will meet them on the other side. Their lips form the name that carried them through, Jesus. Whether that name is yours or not, you can feel their courage. You can feel the human heart standing in its truest form, unbroken. When the tide turned red, the world saw death. Heaven saw their arrival, the church saw 21 crowns. You don't have to be Coptic to understand the story, you just have to be human. Now, standing here, I lift my eyes the way they did. Not in fear, not in doubt, but in surrender and honesty and love. Because if 21 men could face the sea and still choose what they believed in, then surely I can stand, surely you can too. For the 21 whose footsteps mark the sand with faith, whose prayers echo where waves once crashed, whose story reminds every one of us that strength is possible even when your knees are in the sand. May their memory ignite something in us, may their courage find a home in our hearts, and may we whisper the name they whispered with their final breath, Jesus. Next, I'd like to welcome up Kayla.
Hi, I'm Kayla. I'm going to be reading my college essay, and
I just wanted to say thank you to Miss Braverman because this essay would not be what it is today without her. I never wanted to look like my mom. I'm always told I look just like her or act just like her. I remember when she picked me up at my elementary school's aftercare program one day and her blurred face showed up in the camera. You two have the same nose, Miss Melissa told me. I looked up confused. We didn't, did we? It must have been the camera quality. I didn't want to remind people of her. It's not because I didn't look up to her. I did. I just wanted to have my own identity. My whole perspective changed when my dad cracked a joke at dinner. I couldn't stop laughing and my nostrils flared uncontrollably. My dad smiled at me. You're just like your mother. Her nose always moved like that when she'd laugh. When he said it, his eyes lit up like they did when she was still around. It was as if I was her in that moment, sitting beside him at the table. It made me realize the importance of keeping her here, for her husband, for her parents, her sisters and brothers, and selfishly, me. Having to go through the most important years of my life without a mother, especially one with the kindest heart, is, to put it simply, difficult. It requires stability and strength, qualities that my mom taught me throughout her cancer treatment. The never-ending radiation visits, the pills, the false hope. She found importance in caring for her family, even if it meant putting on a smile when the muscles in her face could no longer form that expression. In doing this, she left me with countless lessons, the most valuable gifts that a parent can give. Now I try my best to be just like her. I know it's important that while I keep the characteristics that make me, me, I ensure she still shines through in my life and others around me. In my freshman year gym class, there was a girl who didn't seem to have a friend. I immediately thought about how my mom would look at this situation. I mustered up her courage, and "I love your eyeliner" was the first thing I said to Grace. We've been friends for 4 years now, and this year she transferred schools. Every time I see her, whether she's visiting for a game or at homecoming, I'll run up to her with my mother's smile, the biggest, telling her how much I missed her. Knowing the importance of guarding my relationships and keeping the people I love closest, I never fail to let her know how much I care about her. Now it makes my day when someone who knew her tells me I even slightly resemble her. Today I keep her nose with me, along with her smile and her laugh. Not only do I resemble her looks, but I also hold some of her many characteristics. Her strength to persevere, her compassionate heart, and her affection towards others. I keep them safe so that more people can experience the joy she brought and so that the world can remain a better place. I've never wanted to look more like my mom. And next up is Kaylin.
Hi, I'm Kaylin. Shout out to Bella Voce. So I have two short pieces. My first one is, so I'm a junior, so my first one is just like about how fast high school has really just gone by. So it's just called senior year. I didn't understand what everyone meant by life goes by fast until I started high school. I feel like every time I take a breath, another year passes. Inhale. When I was younger, all I could think about was how excited I was for school to end, to hang out in summer and spend all my time outside and sleeping in. But then came high school and theater. Exhale. Freshman year. By the time my first show passed, I felt like it was already halfway over. I got close with a lot of seniors my freshman year. Imagine my surprise when I took a breath and it was already their graduation. Inhale. Freshman year. Over. Just like that. Exhale. That was okay though, because even though it was fun, I was sure sophomore year would be great and it would take longer. Inhale. You'll be fine on your own, I was told when my props leader informed me that I was going to be leading the musical on my own. Exhale. The senior walkthrough. I couldn't hold back the tears. I got hugs from some of my best friends and my sister that strolled into the next part of their life, leaving me behind in high school. Inhale. I walked into the building, realizing I would walk in and all the seniors were gone. I was the upperclassman now. Exhale. Choosing classes, my future in my hands, choosing what colleges see. Inhale. Finals, semester 1. Halfway done with junior year. Life really does go by fast. I could have sworn I was a freshman yesterday, but then I took a breath. Exhale.
Now I'm almost in my senior year. My next piece is kind of not related at all. I wrote this a while ago, but it's called I Want That Love, just about love. I want that love where we run into each other's arms. I want that love where I cry and they will listen until I stop. I want that love for the rest of my life. I want that love where we have the same friend group. That love I give one look and they know exactly what I need. I want that love where they know when I need a hug, a kiss, or someone just to talk to. I want that love where we have inside jokes that no one else knows. I don't have that love. I want that love. Does that love even exist anymore? I want that love where they won't tell anything that happens between us. I want that love where I can lean on them for anything. I want that love where they know what I need before I say it, no matter how much I deny it. I want that love where we can go on an elaborate dinner date and have a blast. I want that love where we can sit in sweatpants and watch Hallmark movies. I want that love where they don't care how I look. What matters is how I feel. I want that love that's in the movies, that love everyone desires. I want that love, that love, that love. And next up is Cora.
Hello. Whoa. First of all, great job to the 8 amazing writers all up here. Can we have another round of applause for everyone? That was wonderful. All of you in the audience, you should really, really apply and do Writers Week. It is so much fun. It is terrifying, but it is so rewarding. I am low-key freaking out right now, but that is why it's so much fun. Shout out to Mr. Dawson's AP Lang class up there. This piece was actually written for this class, so here it goes. If there exists a strand of DNA that grants a hot temper, then the Jopa family most definitely has it. I see it the most in my dad, but I also see my dad the most. The way he goes from 0 to 100 in a moment, his booming voice shattering whatever came before, commands his rage. Being hard of hearing, he's naturally loud, adding to his already heightened anger. One time, I wanted to watch La La Land with my friend in our basement, but we couldn't figure out how to enable subtitles. I made the grave mistake of asking my dad to help, knowing that he notoriously hates subtitles because he's hard of hearing, ironically, and that if I couldn't figure it out, he probably couldn't either. Sure enough, he didn't, and I, being a grouchy Jopa, made a snide comment about it towards him. Cue his outburst in front of my poor friend. 20 minutes later, he popped his head downstairs, asking if we wanted popcorn. He came back blabbering something about the Bears game he was watching upstairs, as if he hadn't been standing in the exact same spot, berating me less than half an hour earlier. It's a common pattern in our family, letting the bad out at each other and moving on with each other. He's definitely not the only one, nor the worst. My grandfather, his dad, is, from what I've been told, fearsome. As a moody teenager, my dad punched a hole in the wall of his house when his brother took his seat, because our family doesn't know how to react to conflict like normal people. He was immediately evacuated in fear of my grandfather's return home after work. My aunt still giggles when describing her father's rage that night. To us, it's another outburst that faded within an hour or two, only becoming a funny story. But before the clock strikes 12, you do not want to cross a Jopa. If there exists a strand of DNA that grants secrecy, then the Shelton family most definitely has it. I don't think I've ever seen my mother's parents get upset, not because their lives are perfect, but because they hide the problems. My grandfather on my mom's side has had a myriad of heart issues his entire life, and my grandmother was a lifelong cardiac nurse. After he got a heart valve transplanted years ago, we all assumed that they, given both of their histories, would be following up regularly with doctors as the transplant was set to expire. They did not. Following 5 years of ignoring his heart, my grandfather needed emergency cardiac surgery. We thought there was some ill-fated stroke of bad luck that had befallen him, but neither him nor my grandmother admitted 2 years of neglecting the most important part of his health until after the surgery. It wasn't a problem until it was resolved, so there was no problem according to them. They bottle things up. Somehow the bottle never pops and spills over. It just keeps growing, and you get more and more tired in doing so. That was my mother's childhood. She escaped and joined the beautiful fury of being a Jopa. While half of my DNA is Shelton, I roll my eyes when I'm called one because I am nothing like them. I am a Jopa. I don't have what it takes to mask my problems and meaningless half-truths. I get angry and I blow arguments completely out of proportion. I quickly make up and smother others with love. I fight back when poked and prodded and I draw blood. I cool down and go back to normal after a few minutes because we all do. Being a Jopa entails living in extremes. We get twice as angry with 3 times the love. I know how my family feels about everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because we can't hide it. But I know that there's so much love inside our huge, turbulent mess because we can't hide it. Thank you. So we have about 10 minutes left, and some of us are going to be reading additional pieces. So this is also another assignment that I wrote for AP Lang. This was the Anthropocene reviewed chapter, if anyone knows about that assignment. It's about family stuff again, and this was written before what I just read, so my perspective is very different. My mom's side of the family lives in the suburbs of Minneapolis, so a couple times a year we go and visit. The 6-hour drive is excruciating, considering we typically visit in the winter and it's the Midwest. But our familial ritual makes the car ride worth it. The evening we arrive, our whole family goes to Hajime, a random local Japanese restaurant that my grandparents decided to be their favorite place in the whole wide world over a decade ago. Hajime knows us. They know our orders, our medical history, our drinks, our dietary restrictions, our addresses, our friends, and maybe our social security numbers. The restaurant is run by a Japanese family in the area, and not to brag, the owner, Lynn, always waits on our table despite her job being management-oriented. While the familiar charm of Hajime has always enchanted me, my loyalty lies with the koala yummies. When I was younger, I was an extremely picky eater. I was of the belief that nothing could entice me to eat something remotely green, vaguely vegetable, or slightly mushy. Miraculously, the koala yummies could overcome that. My signature order was the children's bento box, filled with fried chicken, rice, pot stickers, and a packet of my beloved koala yummies. My parents would steal away my treasured treat, hiding it until I finished the rest of my meal. In a change of heart, I would eat like I had been starved to reunite with my dear koala yummies. They were little, hollow-shaped koala cookies, coated with chocolate in the middle. On the front, they would have a miniature koala print that was posing, anything from sleeping to writing to dancing. 4-year-old me did not care that much about the nitty-gritty details, only seeing that it was chocolate and a cookie and that it was cute and sweet. Lynn would always sneak me extra packets to take home because my love for these treats was evident to anyone in the restaurant. Now, I have long graduated from the kids' menu of included koala yummies, but I am still handed a surplus of them whenever I visit. Lynn knows I still love them, and she loves to indulge me. To my complete and utter horror, I recently discovered that koala yummies are not called koala yummies. I feel betrayed. Instead, they are known as Koala's March. One of the koalas represented on the cookies is named March, apparently. To be fair, koala yummies was their name when the product first was launched in the US in the 1990s. Hajime must have realized the superiority of a name like koala yummies and continued to use it for 30 years. Disgracefully, the brand has erased any part of their history with the better name, Koala Yummies, pretending that they were always known as Koala's March. They even say Koala's March was created in 1984, which was when it was still known as Koala Yummies. Lying to our faces, what a shame. The last time I went to Hajime was under unusual circumstances. My grandfather had been hospitalized for an emergency heart surgery, so my mom and I drove to Minnesota to support him and my grandmother. No one was up for Hajime the night we got in, the night before the surgery. The second day, we had to get up at 4 a.m. to get my grandpa to his surgery, which started 4 hours later and lasted for over 8 hours. The post-op was scarier, with his rapid blood loss and his heart randomly stopping, barring us from seeing him for about 5 more hours. Around 9 p.m., we were allowed, one at a time, to go into the ICU and see my grandpa. He was in rough shape, a bit of an understatement, with more tubes than I could count, doing more things than I could know, connected to more places than I could see. Hajime had to wait a few more days until he was stable and we were able to leave him without feeling like bye was goodbye. But the visit to Hajime did eventually happen. Our party of 4, a departure from the 9 people of our Minnesota family gatherings, raised some alarm bells at Hajime. Lynn noticed first. When she came to ask for our drinks, she immediately crouched down to my eye level with us, questioning carefully, "Where's John?" My grandmother gave a small, sad smile before explaining her spiel about his heart surgery. Lynn gave her a hug, then assured her, "His heart has always been bad, but he's always okay. Don't worry, I'll take care of you." Out of all the sympathies we got, that was my favorite. When she came back with our drinks, she fished into her pocket and handed me what she knew I needed, a packet of koala yummies. They aren't the koala yummies of my childhood. The chocolate tastes different, the packaging has been altered, the name isn't the same, and neither am I. That doesn't stop me from ripping the packet open, taking a bite, and feeling like I'm a kindergartner again. Like my only worries are if I'm going to get my favorite swing on the playground for recess, if I can name all the planets in the solar system in the correct order, or if my parents will let me use my tablet on the 6-hour drive home. Like my problems aren't as massive and soul-crushing as I feel. The koala yummies make me feel like my grandfather will be okay, just like Lynn said, and maybe I'll be okay too. When Lynn comes back with the food, she slips me 3 more packets of koala yummies, and I am finally the closest I can be to peace. I give koala yummies 5 stars. Thank you. There's gonna be more people reading stuff.
Hi again. I wrote this poem about my mom. She came here to see me. It's called Holding On. Sometimes love holds you without asking, and I think yours was the first I ever understood. Not in words, but in the way her hand closed around mine, as if you knew I would need it long before I did. You were always there to guide me, even when I insisted I could walk on my own. And now I see it, the quiet truth that one day I'll reach for your hands and it won't be there. You never notice, Mama, the way I tear up just thinking about the day I won't have your hand to hold. One day your warm hand will slip from mine. And I don't know who I'll become in that moment. I don't know where I'll place my fear, my questions, my trembling, when the hand that steadied me is no longer there to reach for. This is the truth I've never said aloud. When I hold your hands, I'm a child again. Safe, small, understood. It is the one place my heart stops running. And when you return to God one day, I pray the memory of your touch will remain, not as an ache, but as a warmth that follows me everywhere I go, where I must learn to stand alone. You're my first home, my first teacher, my first light. I don't know how to prepare my heart for a day it must walk without your shadow beside it. I hope when people see me, they see your light in my eyes, Mama. So for now, let me hold your hands a little longer, as if time might forget to keep moving. I love you.
All right, let's give one more big round of applause for all of our presenters today. Great job, everybody. And thank you, all of you, for being an excellent audience. That bell is going to ring in about a minute and a half, so we will see you tomorrow. Thank you.